Hello children, how are you all? Today we will take up the second part of Social Studies 10th class lesson, 17th lesson, Independent India, the first 30 years, 1947 to 1977. This is the lesson name. Now we have learned what were in the earlier part of this lesson. We have learned what were the conditions prevailing during the 30 years after the independence, first initial years of the independence of India. So elections were held and all over the country, and people were all prepared for elections, and the administrative system was also strengthened to conduct the elections, and the political parties were also aware of the conditions. They were also already experienced, but they have also trained themselves and their activists, and they conducted the elections in a smooth and fair manner. But after the elections, what was the condition? What was the situation in the country, politically and socially also? Now we will observe one party dominance in political system, because during the struggle period, national freedom struggle period, there were no more than not more than 2 to 3 parties were there, but those other parties were also not so active before the elections. But during the elections, all these parties have made efforts to see that people come in large numbers to vote and take part in the elections. But after the elections, it was agreed and it was evident that in India at that time only one party was there, that was Indian National Congress, and everyone has believed it, everyone has trusted it to be the one party which has brought India independence. So they have voted almost unanimously to that single party in large numbers, large percentage. So it has emerged as the largest single party in the parliamentary elections, general elections, that is. And we will see what was the condition in figures now. In independent India's first 3 general elections in 1952, 1957 and 1962, the Indian National Congress won, reducing other participants to almost nothing. Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of India. None of the other parties individually got more than 11% of the votes polled. The Congress consistently won over 70% of the seats by obtaining about 45% of the total votes cast. No other party was anywhere near the Congress. So people have believed only in Congress party, and they have voted for it to be the head of the government. Children, you must have learnt about other parties also. Let us see now what was the condition of other parties during those 3 elections. No, the Congress party formed the government in many of these states as well. This inaugurated what some other observers called the Congress system. They have called it, see, in the central government there was Congress party. In the state governments also there was Congress party only. So it was called all, the whole country was under the Congress system. This period is identified specifically by the nature of the relationship between the always ruling Congress party and the other parties. However, the Congress always had smaller groups within it. No, see, even in our families, we do not agree with each other on each and every aspect or each and every issue. We do have our different opinions, and we sometimes also differ with each other, and we sometimes argue with each other. It's not like we are quarreling with each other or we are separating with each other. Even in a family, if it is like that, when a party like Congress party, which has extremists and moderates and some other new entrants, all the parties from the other parties, so differently there will be difference of opinion. So Congress party also has some groups within it who have agreed with the high command, that is higher officials in the higher cadre of the party, and these people always there to they who will not agree to whatever the officials or high command says. They always differ. They want something new. They always want something new. So these differences of opinion have made Congress party into small groups. So though these groups originated on the basis of personal competition between leaders, they shared in the overall goals of the party on some policy issues. So there were always some groups in it. You have always seen. So, but they did not differ with the high command or policy issues. On policy issues, they were all one. They have agreed with whatever decision made by the party as a whole was in unity. Now, the groups took different positions on various issues depending on the interests of the members. This made the Congress appear as if it was a party representing diverse interests and positions. See, when people are differing with each other, it may appear that they are, it was as if it was a party representing diverse interests. That is, some groups have common interests and some groups have other interests. People looked about it as it, but at times these groups also tied up with other political parties to pressurize the leadership. See, those who have disagreed with those who have disagreed with the high command, they have always tried to merge with other parties or join with other parties to destabilize the Congress party. Of course, it was not possible at that time, but people have tried to do that. We have to agree with it. And this also acted as an inbuilt corrective mechanism within the ruling party. Ruling party was Congress, so it has to it had to take care of the whole nation into its confidence. So whenever he tried to do something in some of the states, so other people in other parts of the country, other states have felt that they were deprived of that opposition and that position or deprived of that opportunity. So they have disagreed or what do you call disagreed with the high command and the policy makers, and they have pressurized the whole system. They have tried to pressurize the whole system. So ruling party had always pressures. Political competition in the one party dominant system before therefore took place within the Congress, and the opposition parties only posed a latent and not a real threat. But even then, you have to agree that the always ruling party was always ruling party was always what it had continued its dominance. It did not let other parties. It did not let other parties to spoil the party, Congress party. So other parties could never reach the position the Congress party has achieved because of its history. It has it has a great history of bringing freedom to the country. So they did not, other parties did not come anywhere near the Congress party. So you can see here in 1952 and 1962 what was the stand or what was the share of various political parties in the elections. You can see in this blue color in 1952 it was among the total seats. Total seats, it was only other parties which have shared one fourth. You can see here in the chart, pie chart, nearly one fourth of the seats. All the other parties together have taken only one fourth of the votes, seats. And the Congress party alone has taken up three-fourths of the seats, which is 75%. Nearly 75% of the seats were achieved by the Congress party alone. It had not merged with any other party. It had fighted all alone, but it could achieve it. And in 1962 also you can observe it's nearly 70 to 75%. So there was minor difference. When it was 364 in 1952, it was only 361 in 1962. So, so after the elections, one more concerning thing was there in the country. When first elections, the first general elections were held after independence, people have started thinking of their state, their status, and their language and culture. So, this was the first challenge. People have always felt our culture, our language should be recognized separately. This was the demand from the various corners of the country. Among the first challenges that the new nation faced was the demand for reorganization of states on the basis of language. During the British period, the country was divided into presidencies. There were three presidencies in the country at the time of independence. They were Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. It was not Mumbai then, it was only Bombay. It was not Chennai, it was Madras. It was not Kolkata, it was Calcutta. So the difference was that. And a number of very large states like central provinces and Bihar. So these were the presidencies. Three presidencies were there and two states were there. So in these presidencies and states also, many language people, many cultural tribes, many tribes and many cultural heritage people were there in those states and presidencies. So they did not mingle with each other. They could not mingle with each other socially. You could observe that the difference is mingling socially was a different thing, mingling nationally. So, this demand for state reorganization on the basis of language was on. People have started protesting, people have started demanding, people have started agitations for separate state for language, same language people. Here you can see it was Madras presidency. In this Madras presidency, different states, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, now it is Telangana and Maharashtra, some parts of the Madhya Pradesh also, they were all together in as one presidency, that is Madras presidency. So people belonging to Marathi language, Kannada language, Kerala, Malayalam language, Tamil language, Telugu language were all together staying in one state, that is one presidency. Under one presidency they were there. These people have started demanding for their separate state for their language. So people have started, officials were very much worried, but Jawaharlal Nehru was not opposed to linguistic states. He only believed that this was not the right term for it. We could separate the states, but we cannot separate it now, he said, because it was also the consensual position among leaders of the day. All leaders have thought like that only, that this was not the correct time for states reorganization because it was only very early of the independent India, early days of the independent India. But after some days, at least when the whole country was settled down, we could do that. Like that Jawaharlal Nehru was thinking. But they believed that India was in the process of consolidating itself and there should be no distraction. There should be no distraction of constructing the whole new nation. Nation building was happening, and if this type of distractions were there, there will be no positive connection, positive advancement. So agitations were not right at that time. That was the opinion of Jawaharlal Nehru. But people have started asking for separate state. And Potti Sriramulu, State Reorganization Act 1956. When the agitations were at the peak, government had to subside and cede to the agitations and it had to agree to the demands of the states. So thus, Putti Sriramulu, who was demanding the formation of a separate Telugu-speaking state, began a hunger strike. On 15th December 1952, he died after 58 days of fasting. Potti Sriramulu's death was a turning point. Consequently, the states of Andhra Pradesh, Andhra state and Tamil Nadu, at that time there was no Andhra Pradesh. It was only Andhra state. Andhra state and Tamil Nadu were created. It was those two were the part of Madras presidency, but Andhra state was first formed. In August 1953, the States Reorganization Commission (SRC) was appointed with Fazal Ali, K.M. Panikkar, and Hridaynath Kunjru as members to address the issue of formation of states on the basis of linguistic principle. On the basis of its report, in 1956, the States Reorganization Act was passed in Parliament. This led to the creation of 14 states and 6 union territories. It should be noted that when the linguistic states were being formed, the tribal languages like Gondi and Santali or Orowan were not taken into account. Only languages like Tamil or Telugu spoken by majority populations were considered. So, when Putti Sriramulu was fasting, nobody had taken it as serious. So, after 58 days, when he was died of the fasting and hunger strike, people have begun to recognize the demand for separate state, and they have the official, the prime minister and the whole government, central government has taken it up as a serious issue, and consequently the state of Andhra Pradesh and state of Andhra and Tamil Nadu were formed. Two states were formed, and um, in this commission, where states reorganization commission was formed, it was appointed, and these people have observed the things, and they have studied everything, and they have made a report, and they submitted it to the government of India, and these two states were formed, and in that commission Mr. Fazal Ali, Mr. K. M. Panikkar, Mr. Hidaynath Kunjru were members, and their report was on the basis of linguistic principle. These two states were to be formed. So in 1956, the Parliament has passed the SRC, States Reorganization Act. The Constituent Assembly had called for social, economic, and political justice and equality of status and opportunity. It put social and economic change at the top of the agenda of modern India. See, when a country is newly formed, and when a country like India with such diversities, politically, socially, economically, culturally, linguistically, it was very much diverse society. So with this society, everything had to be taken up on a priority, and social, economic, political justice to be handed over to or passed on to the people of India, irrespective of their caste and creed and their status. Everybody should be given opportunity to develop. So, a planning commission, an institution like a planning commission was set up after the inauguration of the new constitution. When the new constitution was uh, so planning commission was set up for good economics, but also good politics as well. It had to take care of the whole nation as one unit, and it had to plan for the development of the whole country, because people were to be given social justice, economic justice, political justice, individual justice. So he hoped that planned development would dissolve the divisions of caste and religion, community and region, as well as other destructive and disintegrative tendencies, and help India to emerge as a modern nation. So modern nation had to be considered as the one which had equal opportunities to all, and justice to everyone. Now we will see how this was to be achieved. The first 5-year plan focused on agriculture and stressed on the need for increasing food production, development of transport and communications, and the provision of social services. It also stressed the need to industrialize India as quickly as possible. Given that food was a basic requirement, there was a consensus based agreement on increasing food production, but there was no agreement on how this should be achieved. The two main questions that divided political opinion were there were two political opinions, because first 5-year plan focused on agriculture only, because food is needed for everyone. Everyone needs food. First primary need. So, food production, food production was the main target. For that, first 5-year plan has focused on agriculture. So, and the second priority was also to achieve industrialization. But that had taken a second priority and agriculture was taken as a first priority. So for agriculture, water facilities or irrigational facilities were very much needed. So construction of dams was taken as the priority under the planning commission. So say Bhakra Nangal Dam under construction during 1960. That picture you can take up, see in the figure. And so after independence, that was the first dam to be constructed. So this was the condition. Dams were constructed so that irrigational facilities were improved and water facilities to the crops was increased. So next you can see one more picture here. Adult literacy class from early decades. First according to the Planning Commission, illiteracy was the main cause for some of the problems in India. So to eradicate uneducation, adult literacy classes were conducted during night time, and this was one of the pictures. And you can discuss with your friends or teachers how different ideas of development or changes in society are reflected with these two projects. First one is irrigational projects and the second one is literacy classes for adults. Now for Jawaharlal Nehru, agricultural transformation was not simply an economic issue but a political, social, and economic transformation of the rural sector. The strategy favored by Nehru and finally adopted included three components. First component was First component was land reforms. Now you have to agree that many jamindars were there at the time of independence. They holded large landforms. Large lands were under the control of jamindars, and they did not let the uh, small peasants who were working under them to own the lands. So the whole land was thousands of acres were under the jamindars, and they had not let the small peasants or middle peasants to um, do agriculture on their own lands. So this was the condition. So land reforms should be uh, held. They were to be taken up. That was the first main target. And next, agricultural cooperatives. Second one is agricultural cooperatives means mm, rights. Rights means these farmers associations must be formed and they should collectively transform or reform themselves and reform the nation also, reform the society as well also. For that purpose, agricultural cooperative societies must be formed. That was the second target. And the local self-government. Local self-government means panchayats and all. These were the main three components. They were adopted. These were the aims adopted by the central government, and these were conducted phase-wise manner, and these have brought many changes in the agricultural sector and the society as well. So you can study about them in the textbook as well. And but there was a minor difficulty in conducting or taking up social reforms with the land reforms because while Jamindari system was abolished, now by 1955, Jamindar system was completely abolished. It was not there, but redistribution of land to the landless did not take place. The rich and powerful in rural areas continued to control most of the land. Though the Jamindari system was abolished, they did not give away the lands. They were not ready to give away the lands to the farmers. Why? Why would one do that? The Dalits, SC caste people, continued to be landless but benefited from the abolition of forced labor and abolition of untouchability. So central government has taken up, national government has taken up three. You can observe that. What was the three reforms? First one is abolition of forced labor, VETI. You can observe. And next one, abolition of untouchability. At that time of independence in India, there was this very bad practice of untouchability. Many low caste people were not allowed inside the houses of the upper caste people, so-called upper caste people, and people did not mingle with each other so easily, and so there were differences between the some categories of the people, and some categories of the people were not at all considered as humans also. So there was very much bad practices were there in the Indian society. We must agree. You see, the first 5-year plan focused on improving agriculture by building large dams to irrigate. Focused on improving agriculture by building large dams to irrigate and produce electricity. Dams were constructed not only for irrigational facilities but also for producing electricity. So dams benefited both agricultural and industrial sector. With the electricity, industrial sector was also improved. So though there was an increase in agricultural production, it was still not sufficient to meet the needs of the population. Population was increasing. So though the agricultural production is increased, it was not sufficient. So the planners felt that for the country to develop, it was essential to develop industries so that more people can shift to towns to work in factories, service sector. Hence, from the second 5-year plan onwards, the emphasis shifted to industry. You would have read about these aspects of economic development in India in the earlier classes. You have seen it in the 7th class, that industrial revolution, how it has brought changes in the Indian society, and these things you could have learned in earlier classes also. So for the second 5-year plan, industrial sector was taken up as the main target. To develop industries was the main aim of second 5-year plan. For the first 5-year plan, it was agriculture. Second 5-year plan, industrial sector. So that was the lesson, children, for this session. Thank you. Lesson will continue. Please watch the third part of this lesson. Okay? Bye.